I'm Owen David, a father of 5, 3 boys, 2 girls. My fear of becoming a father was not knowing exactly what to expect when the children arrived. So I was kind of wondering as to what I would have to do as a father to really support them, to grow them, to provide for them, and to let them be the best that they can be as they grow up. One of my proudest moments is to witness the birth of my children. I had the privilege to witness 4 out of 5 births, and that really made me proud as a father to see that process. My advice to fathers and fathers-to-be is to first you must take this thing seriously, because fatherhood is not just about just having children, but knowing what it is to have them and to provide for them and to grow them and to be examples to them. So we don't want to be just having children here, there and everywhere and not being able to care for them. So my advice is to the fathers and the fathers-to-be is to own up, because some people go about giving children and not claiming them and not supporting them. So that's the advice I want to give to them, to own up and to be able to provide for them and lead them and guide them. Something I wish that more fathers would do is to be examples to their children, to grow them up in the Lord. So you should be a God-fearing person, and by so you teach your children how to fear and to love God and to live for God.
Hello and happy Father's Day to all fathers. I'm here as the father of my 2 daughters, Tiffany Edwards, my non-biological daughter, and Jelima Urwamba Stefik Zahania Frampton, my one and only biological daughter. She could have had other names also, such as El Rosha and Dehizari, but we only could fit 4 of them on the birth certificate. But she's been my pride and joy. I remember the first day I held her. That is my most memorable moment as a father. On that Sunday morning, on the 1st of August 2004. I love my daughter very much, and I would say that it's been an ever-changing pride from the very first day I held her. The many nights that I would rock her to sleep. Now she's just too big for that, but still she wants daddy to put her to sleep sometimes. But I am thankful for her, and I want to give God thanks and praise for having her in my life. As a father, I would advise all fathers, I wish all fathers would spend more time being their roles as a father. To take their children to church, to take their children to school, to be with them, spend time with them, help them do their schoolwork, and other things that fathers do, to play with them and pray with them, and other things like that. Fatherhood doesn't come with a guidebook, it doesn't come with a manual, but there are some advice, you could call it, that I would like to share from my experience and from my own knowledge about making a difference as a father. One of them is that you need to spend time with your child. Fathers who spend time with your child will grow a relationship with your child, and there will be a better bond. Many times as fathers they have us to be the disciplinarians, but even if you have to fulfill that role of the father, you need to do so with discipline, and do so whenever you are disciplining with love and positive parenting. Don't just discipline for the sake of punishment, but discipline for the sake of improvement. Be a role model to your child. If you want your child to be loving, you need to be loving. If you want your child to be obedient, you need to be obedient. If you want your child to take care of things, you yourself need to take care of things. If you want your child to be respectful to others, you yourself need to be respectful. And there's so many other things like that. Many times as fathers also, we like to be heard, and sometimes we don't hear. If we spend time listening to our children, they too will learn that if they are listened to, they'll be more prone or more conducive towards listening. So don't just expect to be heard because you are the father. Sometimes you need to earn that right to be heard. In other words, you need to share with your child that listening capability that they themselves will return it likewise. Also be a father teacher. In other words, teach your children how it is to be a good father. Teach your children how it is to be a good child. And they themselves will be able to pass on what they learn from you to the children when they have them eventually. And most of all, teach them to love God, while you yourself also love God. So once again, thank you, God the Father, for making me a father to my beautiful daughters, Tiffany and Jelima. Happy Father's Day.
Okay, good day. My name is Kendall Barry, and I'm a father of 2 boys, 2 energetic, handsome young boys. What was my greatest fear before becoming a father? I believe number 1 was the pregnancy process. You know, the birth process. It was always in the back of my mind, hoping that everything goes okay, hoping that the baby is healthy, you know, hoping that the baby born without any complications, hoping that the entire process, you know, goes smoothly enough for my wife and wasn't so, you know, discomforting. So I believe that was one of my greatest fears before becoming a father. Yeah, what is the proudest moment as a father? I think one of my first proudest moments as a father was when our first son was graduating from preschool, and he decided to read his graduation speech since he was the valedictorian. And you know, he sat with his mother and they decided what he wanted to speak about, you know, and put it together. And then he came to graduation and he read that fluently. I mean, I felt good, and the other persons were like, you know, is he actually reading the speech? Like, wow, you know, and I mean, it made me feel very good, you know, and I felt very proud, you know, of being a father, you know, and that was one of my proudest moments, you know, one of them before our first son. Our second son, I think one of the things that made me really proud was, you know, how quick he is, you know, in acquiring stuff. You know, though he may be silent and maybe calm, but he's very quick. I remember giving him the password to the computer and telling him, you know, that's the computer you'd use for school when they were, you know, just starting that COVID thing. And then when I came back from work, I remember I came back from work and I saw him like on the keyboard and minimizing and opening tabs and programs without the mouse, and I was like, what? How are you doing that there? And he was like, Daddy, I went on Google, you know, and then he went on Google and from Google went to YouTube, and he was using the computer without a mouse, doing everything he wants to do without the mouse, you know. And you know, I felt very proud. He actually showed me, you know, that is how you're doing that and that is how you're doing that, you know. And I remember that same evening, you know, I was on my phone and I'm there on YouTube, you know, and then you have the phone and then you're trying to scroll to the timeline that you want. And he was laughing like, "Daddy, that you serious, Daddy? You know, give me that. Let me show you. Let me show you." So I was like, "Show me." And so he took me for. He said, "Daddy, that is how you do it. Tap, tap, 10 seconds." I was like, "Okay." You know, I felt a little way. You know, but the truth of the matter is, you know, I felt very proud. You know that, you know, he was learning the computer, learning the device, and then he even taught me. I never knew that. You know, I could go 10 seconds or 20 seconds forward, and you know, and they taught me that. So I mean, it made me feel very good as a father. Yeah, what I wish more fathers would do. I wish more fathers would spend more time with their children. You know, most times we focus on providing for them, and then we forget, building that relationship with them. You know, just sitting and speaking to your children. You know, like for me, I have boys, and you know, sometimes I sit and speak to them, or in the morning, you know, I wake up and then something comes to mind that I think they should be aware of. You know, I call them and I speak with them. You know, something that we do at home. I mean, it's been a while now, on Friday evenings for worship. Me and my wife and I, we don't handle worship. They are the ones we give in charge of worship. So they get songs for worship, they get their devotions, and then they give us a synopsis of their quarterly for the week. So they are in charge of worship. You know, sometimes, even though it's tiring because they sing a song and they don't stop singing the song, but you know, I mean, we have to encourage them. So I wish, especially as Christian fathers, Adventist fathers, I think these are things that they can do, you know, especially for Friday night. Give it over to your children. Make them feel that sense of appreciation and that sense of ownership and leadership, even at the tender age. So when time for them to participate in church activities, it becomes much easier. So I believe relationship within themselves and their children, and also help them to build a relationship with God. I would advise fathers to take on these responsibilities. Okay, what advice I would give to fathers? The first advice is be impartial, be open and honest, and treat each child independently. Learn each child, because each one of them are different, and you have to learn who they are, their personalities, and treat them accordingly. Do not judge one child based on the other, because each child is different. So that is one of the advice that I would give to fathers and fathers to be. The second advice I would give is to learn your child, find out what they would like to be, who they would want to be, and help them achieve their dreams. And I think that is very important. Their dreams may change as they grow, but try your best to accommodate them, because this builds relationship, this builds bonds, and you know, it gives the child a level of confidence that you are supportive of who they are and what they want to become. So these are the two things that I would advise fathers to be, that when they become fathers, to incorporate those habits in their family life, to learn each child and be supportive of each child. Once it is along the realms of Christianity and it doesn't infringe on beliefs, on what we believe as Christians, and it doesn't, you know, take away from what we believe to be moral, I think we should support children. So this is the advice I'd give to fathers, to be supportive to their children.
Well, my name is Kadik Tittle. I am the father of one child, Kadik Tittle Jr. I think that my biggest fear before becoming a father was if I would do anything that would have any long-term trauma on the child, I think, sometimes you move on in life and then you recognize that some of the negative things that you have or negative traits that you have is linked back to something that your parent did or didn't do. I think that was my biggest fear. My proudest moments as a father, and keep in mind that I've been a father for maybe less than 2 months, but I think my proudest moment was a particular night when Kadik CJ was crying, and I took him up and he just held me and he just calmed down completely. And so I thought that was it, that was cool. I put him back down, he started to cry, and then he just ended up clinging to me for the night. And I think that was, for me, in my little way, the proudest moment for me as a father. What do I wish more fathers would do? Would be something that my father would have done with me and my siblings, and that would have been to be a little bit more emotionally vulnerable with your children. Sometimes you think men need to be rough and tough and not have any emotions, but I think that I would encourage, or I would like to see more fathers be a little bit more emotionally vulnerable with their children. Less than 2 months experience, but I think my advice to fathers and fathers to be would be to ensure that you are where you should be, or continue to strive to be where you should be with God. I think once you are grounded in God, parenthood doesn't come with a manual, but once you're grounded in God, the sky's the limit of what He can do in and through you when it comes to parenting.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. And let me take this opportunity to wish the fathers happy Father's Day. And I pray God's richest blessings on your life as you continue to assume this important role of fatherhood. I am the proud father of one energetic, loving, and caring son, Ruel Rowansi Jackman by name. One of the greatest fear I had before becoming a father was with the many complications associated with pregnancy and child's birth, such as maternal deaths, physically challenged child, and diseases associated with infancy. So these were my greatest fear, and so I want to thank God for having brought my wife and son safely through this critical juncture of their lives. And one of my proudest moments as a father was, I must say, answered to prayer. Even before my wife and I discovered the gender of our son, I used to pray like if I already knew the gender, thanking God for my son. And my wife used to say to me, "Are you praying and thanking God for a son? You don't know if you're going to get a daughter?" I said, "We are going to have a son." And so my proudest moment was when we discovered that we were going to have a son. And after my son was born, it took me 6 months after before I was able to see him and hold him physically due to COVID-19. My wife was scheduled to be here back in Dominica for us to have the son here, but she went home to do a few business and she could not return on time as a result of that. But you can imagine that moment when I held him in my arms for the first time. That was a proud moment. And what can I say to fathers as they or encourage them to do more? I want to say, with fatherhood comes great responsibilities. Responsibilities not just for or to provide food, clothing, and shelter for your child or children, but to be there for them and to teach them to love God supremely. You know, preparing them for time and for eternity, and more so to love and committed to the things of God equally the same. I think, you know, fathers can do more in this area in preparing their children for eternity, because that is what matters. And what advice I can give to fathers and fathers to be, to the fathers I want to say is not just about to provide things for your children, but to give them your time and a good example. And to the fathers to be, the father that you had or have, and the expectation that God has for fathers. I think these will give you good lessons and ideas in helping you to become that ideal father. And I trust that as you would have learned and applied these lessons, you will be the best father when that time comes. So God bless you, everybody, and happy Father's Day.
Can we say when our backs were against it? When our backs were against the wall, and it looked as if it was over, you made a way, and we're standing